we thank you all for joining this week's discussion again. And last week, we had a wonderful discussion with Raghunathan Sendrakasan on risk management. I think some of you also joined the program, by the way, and thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon to everyone. And the week before that, we were also talking with Dr. Philip Tan on leadership. And for me, there was a fantastic discussion with one of the respected leaders in the country, and I hope you're able to also get some good insights out of that program. Today, we're going to continue our discussion on root cause analysis, but instead of using 5 whys, we're going to use another tool called the 4 types of problem. I'm not sure if you've heard about this. Maybe some of you are familiar with the 4 types of problem. So the 4 types of problem is another root cause analysis tool. Mind you, there are several root cause analysis tools out there, and it's really your discretion. It's up to you which one is suitable. So our objective here is to share with you the most simple, the practical, easy to use tools as far as root cause analysis is concerned, so you can greatly improve the implementation of your quality management system. Okay. Now, what is this 4 types of problem? That should be the focus of our discussion today. So let me share that with you. But before I go straight to the root cause analysis, of course, we all know that this root cause analysis is only one of the elements. It's just one of the steps in the problem solving decision-making process, or we know this as PSDM, problem solving decision making. And root cause analysis is, of course, just a part of these steps. And there are also a lot of different tools, different techniques, different strategies in doing problem solving in the organization, in the workplace. And mind you, you can also really apply this in your personal lives, by the way. But let me just share with you a structured problem solving process here, right? So like I said, feel free to do your research. You may be doing different approach in solving your problems, workplace related, but this is a typical structured steps involved in problem solving. So let me walk you through on these 6 steps. So the first, of course, is as we know, is a problem definition. So we need to clearly define the problem. I'm not talking yet about root cause analysis and the 4 types of problem. All right, let me just show you the whole problem solving structure, and then we zero into the root cause analysis part. So as mentioned, the first step here is that of problem solving. So we a problem definition. Sorry. So we need to define the problem. What exactly is the problem? We need to know if it's really a problem, right? And so once you have defined the problem, by the way, one of the things you can do here in problem definition is to look for objective data, meaning are there data, are there indicators, are there supporting evidence that a problem really exists? Like say, for example, the problem is that our customer satisfaction rating is going down. All right, so let's say, okay, now that sounds like a problem. So what sort of objective data can you use? Obviously, you can go to the customer satisfaction index, or you can go to the survey forms that you have sent out to all your customers. So these are objective data that you can use and indeed say that, hey, truly there is a problem. So what I'm saying here is that when you define a problem, it would be very helpful if you support this with data, because otherwise, these issues might not really be mission critical, might not be really problems after all. Okay, they may be a situation that can be arrested right away without it blowing out of proportion. So you know what I'm saying. So you define the problem clearly by supporting it with objective data. And as soon as you have defined the problem, the next quick step you can take there is, of course, to set SMART objectives. All right, you set SMART objectives. Again, this is a simple structure. You may have your own different, complex way of depending on, the complexity of the issues. So I'm sharing with you a simple step, straightforward approach here, by the way. So next is, of course, setting of SMART objectives. So when we say setting of SMART objectives, now that you have clearly defined the problem, let's say the problem here is, as mentioned in my example, is that of declining customer satisfaction rating, and it's supported by data, by the way. The data we use is that of the customer satisfaction survey results. So you have to set your objective here, which is an important part of the whole problem solving process. So Of course, objectives are things that we aspire to achieve or to attain. And take note that it has to be smart, specific, measurable. We can measure it. Let's say, for example, increase or improve customer satisfaction by 30% at the end of, say, fourth quarter 2020. And do not forget that A in SMART stands for, it has to be attainable, it has to be relevant, it has to be time-bounded, hence the deadline, okay? So now that you're very clear with the objectives, the next step here, lo and behold, is your root cause analysis, all right? So this is where we do the root cause analysis, okay? I'll share with you the 4 types of problem, which is the focus of our discussion right now, which is a simple tool on how do we do root cause analysis. Like I said in our previous discussion, we use the 5 whys. We even mentioned about Pareto analysis, the fishbone diagram, and so today I'm going to share with you another simple tool called 4 types of problem. And as soon as we have identified the root cause of the problem, let's say the root cause. We need to know what is at the bottom of this. Why is our customer satisfaction rating declining? Remember, that's a problem from this first step. So root cause analysis would answer, the real reason why such problem exists. And assuming we already have identified the root cause, not just the symptoms, the next step here, just to complete the structured process, is of course generation of solutions. What now would be our solution? Solution or solutions? Of course, it's always better to have solutions, so we can choose from these solutions. And speaking of choosing, of course, selection is your next logical step. Why did I have to specify selection here? You need to understand that, of course, for you to really choose the best solution, you have to consciously come up with criteria as well. So make sure that when you identify solutions, it's based on what criteria. Cost effectiveness of the solution, the timeliness of the solution. Is it easy to implement? Will it be most likely accepted by the persons involved? Those kind of basis grounds or criteria in choosing a solution. So you cannot just simply choose a solution. You also have to do this on using data analysis and all that. So hence we have to also come up with a structured process on how do we select. And of course, after that will be your implementation and evaluation. So you see, this is a simple 6-step process. Implementation, it can be as simple as the 5 W and 1 H. What are you going to do now? Who will do it? When are we going to do it? Why are we doing it? And most importantly, how are we going to implement the solution? Okay. And then do not forget the evaluation there. I mentioned evaluation, by the way. All right, I mentioned evaluation. So when you evaluate, by the way, you go back to your objectives. All right, you go back to your objectives, because do not forget, in the first place, you set your objectives. You set a target. So in your evaluation, were you really able to achieve those objectives? In this particular example we're using here, our example is that of increasing customer satisfaction by 30% at the end of the fourth quarter 2020. So you evaluate that. Only then you would know that the entire problem-solving process is effective. But we're not here to talk thoroughly about this entire problem-solving process. We're here to explore this root cause analysis part, which is, by the way, found in clause 10.2 of our management system, right? In our 10.2, which is, of course, determine the root cause. So in this root cause analysis, by the way, where we're going to take a look at the 4 types of problem, right? As to what exactly is this 4 types of problem, let me share this with you. But before I go to the next slide, which is talking about the 4 types of problem, this is just one tip or one insight I'd like to share with you. Remember, if you're using this structured problem-solving process, take note of this. You follow the steps. All right, follow the steps. So, because sometimes, just sometimes, as soon as we have clearly, maybe defined a problem, what we do is we right away jump to the solutions. I don't know if you agree with me, but I have seen this several times. I've in my experience, I've worked with several organizations here and abroad, and maybe because of urgency of the situation or of the matter and so on and so forth. So as soon as we have, identified this is the problem, okay, let's go right away to solutions, all right? So if you follow this structured process, you may rather do it quickly in your head, but then again, structurally by going through this procedure. So once you have a problem statement, clearly defined, what is the objective now? And of course, your mind working after setting the objective as to finding out what's the root cause. And then what's the solution? Which one do we select? And then let's talk about how we implement it. And finally, do not forget evaluation. When are you going to evaluate that? What metrics or criteria are we going to use? So you go back again to these specific objectives that you have set. All right. So do not jump straight to the last step. You follow a process. So because if you're using this process, and the only way to prove this reliable process is, of course, by going through all the steps. All right. So like we said in process engineering, a reliable process will generate reliable results. Okay, now that I have emphasized that, going back to root cause. So the focus is on number 3 here. Going back to root cause. So this is the 4 types of problem. I don't know if you've heard of this, all right? I'm sure you're familiar with Ishikawa diagram, the fishbone diagram, the Pareto analysis, of course, the 5 whys, which we have covered in our previous discussion. So today, I'd like to share with you the simple tool called the 4 types of problems, all right? And regardless of your designation in your implementation of your management system, let's say QMS, maybe you're a QMR, maybe you're an auditor, maybe you're a lead auditor, maybe you're just a process owner, for sure you will definitely encounter non-conformances in the implementation of your ISO. Okay, and we know that a non-conformance, of course, is non-fulfillment of a specified requirement. In other words, there's a problem. And so all of us are duty bound to analyze the root cause. Now, and you also clearly know by now that there might be so many factors, okay, so many contributory factors to an issue or a problem. So going back to my example earlier of a declining customer satisfaction, just by thinking of it, there can be so many factors. Maybe I don't know, the price, maybe the quality, or maybe just the behavior of the person, or maybe it's just the high standard of quality that the customer is expecting from you, or maybe just the market itself. We don't know. There's so many factors involved here. But in these 4 types of problem, it simplifies these factors by just categorizing causes into 4. Did you get that? So in this simple tool, the factors can just be classified into 4, regardless of complexity. All right. Let's say, for example, there's a delay in the delivery of your product or services, and all of a sudden, of course, your stakeholders complain. Now, if you're going to use the 4 types of problem, you will analyze it based on the 4 areas. And the 4 areas, of course, are what you can see on your screens. So let me explain further. So the first one here is information handling. Information handling. So, and of course, you have tangible, intangible types, and then finally behavioral. This is, by the way, arranged in order. I'll explain. So let's say, let's analyze the problem using information handling. What exactly is information handling, by the way? So when we say information handling, there's a problem because wrong information is shared, all right? And then wrong information is processed. And then finally, wrong information is distributed. So what do you get there? You get problems, all right? You get lapses in communication. So that's basically is information handling. Wrong information received, wrong information processed, wrong information sent, all right? Now, do you experience this in your organizations? I bet you do. I bet you do. And I bet it happens most of the time. Like I thought, information handling. And if the cause is information handling, your corrective or preventive action, I hope that's clear with you already. We discussed in our previous webinars what's the difference between corrective, and preventive. So if the issue is information handling, if the problem is information handling, your corrective or preventive actions should have something to do with improving the communication process, okay? Never bother, fixing maybe the procedure or the strategy or the plan, or even, scolding at the person, or give the person your peace of mind. So just focus on how you can fix the way you handle communication, maybe your communication protocols, maybe your communication channels. That, my friends, is what we call information handling. All right. Now, I hope that is clear. Moving on, what's the next type of problem? The next type of problem, we call it tangible. What do we mean by tangible, Joe? What is tangible? So if you notice, there's tangible, there's intangible. So a tangible type of problem, it has something to do with the procedure, okay? With the procedure manual, that's tangible. It has something to do with the process. It has something to do with the structure. Maybe it has something to do with the layout of your workplace. Tangible things, tangible. So maybe I'll use the procedure itself. So when the cause, or when the root cause of the problem can be traced back to process or procedure, then we classify it as tangible in nature. So meaning to say, there's a problem, there's a delay in the delivery of the products and services, the customer complained, there's a defect in your result, or the services that you just rendered didn't meet the expectation of your stakeholders, and that is maybe because the process itself is just not effective. The process might be too complex, it involves too many steps, and worse, the process is not tested and validated. So it's a trial and error. So you can all connect the issue back to the process itself. Now, if this is the issue, do not do anything about information handling. Do not try to overhaul your communication protocols, revisit your communication channels. If the problem is tangible in nature, zero in into your process, because it's the process that is causing it. Okay, my friends, it's the process. The process is designed to make failures. The process is designed to generate customer complaints. Can you imagine that? And I always share this in my talks. Like when we speak of a process, this is my favorite formula, by the way, in process improvements, the R plus R equals C. And I think some of you already have seen this, okay? So this is a simple process formula. We design a process so that we achieve consistent results. So if you have a process for delivery, for example, of products and services, the objective of that process is for it to attain consistency and satisfaction of the customers. However, if the process is poorly designed, all right, and based on this formula, the first R is repeatability of the process. Make sure that the process can be repeatable. It's so simple that you can easily repeat it. And the process can also be reproduced, meaning you can duplicate it. Others can just follow it. You don't need a process champion to spearhead this process. And if the champion is gone, there's something wrong with the organization now. No, it has to be reproducible. Everybody can just easily do it. So this is a simple formula. Repeatability plus reproducibility equals consistency in the process. The problem there is that if the process is defective, all right, if the process is defective and you repeat that process and you ask everybody to reproduce this process, meaning follow this process, what do you get? You get consistent, defective results. And if that's the case, then we can categorize that as a tangible problem. And by all means, re-engineer your process, or maybe reinvent your process. You may even want to take a look at this right now, considering our current situation with this health crisis. Maybe your processes are no longer, like, all of a sudden applicable with the current situation. And you cannot just, simply using the same old process. You just have to really take a look at it again, right? And maybe try to reinvent that. Okay, I think that's clear. So the next step is that of, the next type of root cause here is that of an intangible problem, all right? I hope you are learning here. So intangible, of course, is the, if we have tangible, we have intangible. So what do we mean intangible here? The root cause can be classified as intangible if this time it is brought about by systemic failure. Now it has something to do with a system. not just one isolated process, but the entire system. So intangible intangible root causes or intangible problems refer to systems. Maybe the strategy itself is faulty. Maybe the plan itself to start with is designed to fail. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, so if that's the case, then if the issue is intangible, you need to revisit the strategy. By all means, my friends, my fellow practitioners in ISO here, do not try to reinvent the procedure. Do not try to overhaul the communication protocols. By all means, revisit your strategy, because this time it is strategic in nature. All right? Are we getting this? So to really put emphasis on number 3, on the third type of a problem here, you have problems in your system. You have customer complaints, you have defects, you have errors in the report, you have reworks, you have rejects, because your system is designed. That's awful. All right. So if that's the case, you need to revisit the whole system itself. All right. Not just one single process, but the entire system itself. Is that clear? All right. I hope that's clear. Okay, now, lastly, I guess you know what is behavioral, right? I think everybody knows what's behavioral. So the last type of problem here is behavioral. Behavioral, obviously, is a problem which involves, the way certain individuals behave in an organization. Now we have a non-conformance. Now we have a problem. Because this is brought about by the way a certain individual behave in the workplace. So it's behavioral in nature. So this time it has nothing to do with information handling, which is number 1. The problem has nothing to do with the procedure itself. The process is just, perfectly fine. We overhauled it, we validated, we tested it, it's working. And it has nothing to do with the system. This time we audited the system, it's just fine. And yet we still have non-conformance. So the issue now may be, I'm saying maybe, the issue now is behavioral, maybe behavioral. So this time, when the issue is behavioral, what do? What will be your corrective and preventive action, or your correction? Your corrective and preventive action should have something to do with addressing the behavior of the person. Do not fix the procedure, all right? Do not reconfigure the system. Do not veto the communication protocols, but sit down with the process owner and talk to the process owner. Maybe you can coach the process owner. Maybe you can mentor the process owner, because now it's behavioral. All right? Do you agree with me? So as managers, I hope this gives you a clear framework. As supervisors, even if you're just a process owner who's struggling to manage all these non-conformities in your quality management system, in your ISO standards implementation. You now have a clear structure into analyzing the different problems. Is it information handling? Is it a tangible type of problem? Is it the strategy, or is it behavioral? Now, one last thing I'd like to share with you. There's just one last insight I'd like to share with you. There's a reason why behavioral is number 4. Okay, there's a certain reason why we put behavioral here on the last part, and I would like to put emphasis that behavioral should always be, all right, should always be. Maybe you'll disagree with me here, but let me know. I'd like to know your thoughts. Okay, behavioral should always be the last cause. All right, behavioral should always be the last recourse. I'm sure a lot of people maybe here will disagree. I hope some others will also agree with me. Why is that? Because in a workplace, that when there are non-conformities, when there are audit findings, when there are deviations from the standard, the first thing that we normally see is the process owner. I hope I'm wrong. But again, based in my experience, this is always the case, or this may be sometimes the case. So we always see the process owner, he wasn't able to perform the activity. He didn't follow the process. He was not informed. He didn't undergo training, or worse yet, he was just, some having poor attitude or behavior. That's why we had, issues in the delay and so on and so forth. So what I suggest here is that before you jump to behavioral, I'd like you to go at least first. You do this principle of elimination. You first try to eliminate the information handling issue. As soon as you have eliminated that, okay, go to the next. Is it procedural? And then if you have eliminated that, then maybe go to the next part. Is it systemic? As soon as you have eliminated all this and they are now totally out of the equation and you still have a problem, now maybe you'll say, okay, maybe this is behavioral. All right? All right. So, I hope it's now 40 minutes after 4 o'clock. And if you have questions or clarifications about this simple tool, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I would love to interact with you, by the way, and see if you can actually apply this in your respective workplaces. And you have seen in our last webinar the 5 whys. Okay, I think you have understood that clearly. The Ishikawa diagram, the fishbone diagram, where we use man, method, machine, materials. And now you're looking at this simple tool again called the 4 types of problems. All right. So I hope this gives you a clear structure of how are you going to use this. Okay, we have one here from Sir Rommel Ross Oba. Sir John, can I request for a more tangible example pertaining to intangible problems? That's a good question. Pertaining to intangible problem. Okay, now sure, Sir Rommel. Thank you for asking that. I'll give you an example. Let's say, you know what? I'd rather show you a case study here. Give me 1 second. I'll show you a simple case study here. That's a very good question, by the way. So Sir Rommel Ross Oba is asking for an example pertaining to intangible problems. So let's take a look at this. Let me just stop my screen here. Okay. Okay. Let me pick an example here, Sir Rommel. That's a very good question. So if you are in the mood for some data here, okay, let me share with you something. I hope it's not too late for the day. I know it's almost 5 o'clock, and okay, so here it is. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so let me share with you my screen again. Okay, so can you see this? All right, I think you can. So, so this is a workshop. I'm not going to run all of this today. Okay, we by the way, as you all know already, are conducting full day training courses, 2 days, 3 days. So, if you'd like to know more about this, we discuss it there in depth. But since you asked for that, Sir Rommel, let me share this with you. So there it is. Information handling is about wrong information. It's about wrong information gathered. Okay, tangible. It has something to do with the process. Intangible with the strategy or the planning. Okay, and of course you have of course behavioral there. All right, behavioral. So the way certain persons behave. Now we have case studies for that, by the way. For example, let's just go through this. This is very quickly. So let's say we're having problems with the product manager. Are you with me? Please show me a thumbs up sign. Huh? I don't want you to fall asleep 15 minutes before 5 o'clock. So I know these are all pure text, but please bear with me here. Let me just give you an example. Okay, so yeah, thank you for that thumbs up sign, Sir Ma'am Jonah Salvador. Okay, so let's say here, look at this. This is a sample. So thank you for your thumbs up sign. So here, John is a manager in charge of marketing and sales for AGF. Okay, this is in our office, and our office has 4 product segments, so A, B, C, and D. All right, and so I'm going to show you in the next page some data, so you can try to analyze the data. And I warned you, there are simple data here, so please bear with me. So the product manager for product B was acknowledged as being among the best in her field, and the product managers for C and D were merely average as well. So I'm just reading the case here. But they had seemed to respond to John's coaching and were working harder and better. All right. So I'm just reading the case. John was having problem with Paul. So our problem here is with Paul. No? So Paul is one of the sales managers, the product manager for product A. So take note that Paul is handling product A. We're talking about a strategy. You know? So here, as requested, this is an example of a strategic problem. So Paul used to be a good manager. Take note of that. Paul used to be a very good manager, but right now, obviously, the company is having problems because all of a sudden Paul is having issues with performance. All of a sudden, his sales is on a slump, and his sales data statistics are on a decline. All right. So, and of course, the boss here, John, was wondering how could he solve the problem he was having with Paul. All right. So now, if you are in the position of John right now, if you're in the position of John, so I'm addressing this question to everybody, not only to Sir Rommel Ross Oba. If you are John here and you are faced with an employee like Paul, who is all of a sudden having issues in her performance, take note that Paul used to be a performer. All right. Maybe you're not coming from sales. Maybe some of you here are coming from government agencies. So maybe try to use some different scenario. So if you are a manager of an employee who's having performance issues, what are you going to do? All right. Now, the question here is this. If we're going to apply the 4 types of problem, if it's a performance issue of your employee, you can see that. And take note that this employee used to be a performer, right? He used to be a performer. Now, all of a sudden, I can hear some some sound here. All of a sudden, your employee is having performance issue. What are you going to do? My question here is, what type of problem would this be? Obviously, I already gave away the answer because I said this can be a strategic problem. All right. Now let me show you why. Okay. Now let me show you the data here for purposes of discussion. I'll use this data. All right. So let's take a look at data. It has to be data driven. So in your case, like I said, in step 1 of problem solving, you need to support your problem definition with data. Remember that? So you cannot just say this is a problem and then you don't even know what data to support to prove that there is really indeed a problem. So in this case, we are having data here. So look at this. So we're looking at our performance here. Okay. So product A. Okay. So product A. This is Paul. Remember Paul. He's handling. This is your problem employee now. And look, from 2018, 2019 to 2020, the current year. If you notice, her numbers are dwindling, going down, right? But if you look at the numbers of competitor X, Y, and Z, their numbers are also going down. This is not an isolated event. This is not, say, unique to our case and not unique to Paul. Take note of that, all right? So Paul is not performing well, and so are the competitors anyway. Did you get that? All right? And so Paul now is so demoralized. Regardless or no matter what he would do, his numbers are down. And so what are you going to do now? Maybe most of you will say, okay, I'll sit down with Paul. Maybe I'm going to coach him. Maybe I'm going to mentor him. Maybe I'll sit down with him and try to, encourage him, motivate him. So don't be discouraged. All right. So maybe the common answer would be that, by the way. All right. I'll try to sit down with this person and mentor him and talk to him. Now, take note that we also have other managers, but let's just focus on Paul because we're talking about Paul here. So we have different managers for product A, product B, and so on and so forth. But we're just specifically talking about Paul here. So, so take note that all the rest of the organization here is also having problems. So when you use this, by the way, you need to figure out what is this type of problem. Is it intangible, tangible, information handling, or behavioral? Some of you would say that this is behavioral because Paul is misbehaving. All right, Paul is maybe demoralized, or Paul just lost enthusiasm, and so I'm going to do some behavioral intervention. But if you analyze further, this is a strategy issue. All right, this is a strategy issue. Look, your competitors are suffering the same fate. All right, so it must have something to do with the market. Please try to revisit your strategy because no matter how much effort Paul will put into this, if you are still using the same strategy that is no longer effective, nothing will happen. I'll use an analogy here. Let's say, for example, we're selling products, like we're selling cell phones, okay? We're selling cell phones, and Paul is your product manager here. And take note, it's already 2020, the era of mobile phones. And Paul is still selling, based on our strategy, is selling a Nokia 3210. What do you think will happen? Because our strategy is, let's be nostalgic, we emotionally connect to, old people who's fond of, the Nokia. That's going to be a disastrous strategy, by the way. So no matter what Paul will do, his strategy is just faulty. He needs to change it. And it's not only Paul's. Take note, your competitors also are having issues. So the market perceptions, the market needs may have changed already. The landscape may have totally evolved, and everybody, us included, including the competitors, are not adjusting to it. So it has something to do with strategy. And the first thing you see, though, unfortunately, is the person. And in this case, it's Paul. Did you get that? All right? In this case, it's Paul. And so what do? We normally jump to conclusions. Like we say, okay, we need to sit down with Paul. We need to coach Paul. And we need to send him to whatever. Right? And maybe talk to him because he's misbehaving now. He's so demoralized and he just lost all his passion as far as, our product and services are concerned. But if you really analyze it in a deeper perspective, you soon see that it has something to do with this, all right? It has something to do with your strategy. Sir Rommel, that is rather a very lengthy answer. I hope I answered your question, Sir Rommel. So on strategy itself, all right? That's a very good question, Sir Rommel. I'm not saying you ignore Paul, all right? What I'm saying here is that you have to first fix this. You have to fix the strategy. And then you talk to Paul, all right? And then you talk to Paul, not the other way around. Take note, this is root cause analysis. And speaking of root cause analysis, you need to just go straight to the root cause. It cannot be one or two the same root cause. You just go straight to the root cause. And in this particular case, the root cause is strategic and behavioral is just a symptom of this root cause. We don't want to address the symptom. We'd like to arrest the root cause. Did you get that? All right, so Rommel, I hope I clarified your question there. And here's a comment from Ma'am Floriza of the Cebu Normal University. It takes skills to identify the problem correctly before one can devise the right solution. Absolutely, Ma'am Floriza. That is spot on, right? That is well said. And this skill, you acquire this through, again, we all know, practice. So the beauty here is that you capture this framework, all right? And it's not an assurance, it's not a guarantee that you would, right away categorize it into its right category, whether it is information handling, tangible, intangible, or behavioral, but for sure, it will help you weed out all the causes and put you in a better position to resolve your non-conformances in the organization, okay? So from Edita, Ma'am Edita, how are you? I miss you so much. Thank you for joining us here, and stay safe there in the Visayas State University. You're welcome. Thank you so much. And from Sir Joben, Sir John, this RCA shall start with number 1 down to number 4. Oh yeah. Yes, sir. As much as possible, like I said, maybe you can do the process of elimination. Maybe identify, are there something wrong with the information handling here? Is it information related? Is it procedure related or system related? Is it strategy or plan? So you sort of like weed it out like that. And then finally you go to the behavioral. Like I said, as much as possible, the behavioral should be the last recourse, not the other way around. Okay, not the other way around. If I can quote Edward Deming here, he said 85% of the non-conformances of your quality management system can be attributed to system, not people. All right, system, not people. So fix the system, and the people will just work within that system.